Krishna laying next to her. Can you imagine waking up and finding baby Krishna? Nanda and Yashoda, Jiva Goswami explains, previously they had no children. And because they were the leaders of the whole Braj Bhumi, Braj means a community that is moving about, wherever the best place for taking care of the cows. And everyone in Gokul, they were yearning for Nanda and Yashoda to have a child. But there was no child. Nanda Maharaj's his father, Parjanya, Krishna's grandfather, he was performing pujas and prayers for Nanda Maharaj to have a child. But Nanda and Yashoda would talk together and share something. Nanda Maharaj said, there was a beautiful, beautiful little baby child that appears to me in my heart. Not exactly a dream. It's something very real. He has a complexion like a dark monsoon cloud, and he has beautiful, beautiful lotus-like eyes. And his lips like the bimba fruit. When they smile, it completely conquers my heart and my mind. I'm in love with this child. And Yashoda Mai, she said, I'm also seeing that same child. He's appearing in my heart. Krishna wanted to invoke within them the yearning and the longing to have him as their child. And they did. And the different Brajavasis were asking him, you're not having any children, do this yajna, do this sacrifice, do this fast. But they understood that these things, they can only bring about material results, karma kanda, and they can bring about children. But the child that we're yearning for can only come through pure love and pure devotion. They worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead with all their hearts and did Dwadasi fast. And then that child entered Yogamaya and carried that little baby that they yearned for within the heart of Nanda, and then entered the heart of Yashoda Mai. So on the day of Nandotsav, in the early morning, Yashoda Mai, she gave birth and went to sleep. And didn't, because of Yoga Maya's influence, she really didn't know. She couldn't remember. She just woke up, and there was the most beloved object of her praying that revealed himself in her heart as a newborn infant baby laying beside her. She embraced the child. He was born with beautiful, fully grown, long hair curling around his moon-like face. She gazed in his face, and he gazed in her face. And her heart flooded with motherly love. The motherly love of the spiritual world. And here this newborn little infant so small, so soft, so totally, apparently vulnerable and fragile, is the absolute truth. The source of Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, Kshirodakshai Vishnu, the source of Narayan, Narasimha, Varaha, the source of Shiva, the source of all the universes and all of creation, the intelligence of the intelligence, the strength of the strong, the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of all existence. And he doesn't know how to talk. He doesn't even know how to crawl. He's just laying helplessly looking at Yashoda, like any child would look at mother. And when the news came to Nanda Maharaj, who at the time was milking the cows, very auspicious time, and one of the, I believe it was a Brahmin lady who came by Rohini Devi's direction to inform Nanda Maharaj. But as soon as Nanda Maharaj saw the tears of enthusiasm, excitement, and happiness in that lady, he knew that his child was born. She didn't even have to tell him. He just started giving her gifts. And Nanda Maharaj, he was so excited. He didn't know this child was God. He was beyond that. He would walk a few steps and fall down in ecstasy, and then he'd walk a few more steps and fall down. He didn't even know where he was going. And then he finally came to Nanda Bhavan in Sri Gokul Mahavan. And Rohini took the little baby child from Yashoda Mai and put him in the arms of Nanda Maharaj. And there was a glorious festival. It was a festival of the heart. It was a festival of love. You see, the nature of spiritual relationships in the true sense is there cannot be envy. Spiritual relationships, we are truly well-wishers. When we see someone getting the blessings of the Lord, we become greatly happy. When we see someone getting blessed, that is our great joy. From the heart of the hearts, the love of the Brijabasis was being expressed to celebrate the good fortune of Nanda and Yashoda. And you see, because they were celebrating the good fortune of Nanda and Yashoda, Nanda and Yashoda's good fortune became their good fortune. This is a very subtle secret of spiritual psychology. When we actually celebrate how someone is getting Krishna's blessing, it becomes our blessing. When we're depressed or envious, then there's no real spiritual connection. We've lost what is potentially ours. When we appreciate when a devotee is blessed or gets success, we actually get the benefits. even though we don't want it. It naturally comes. If we appreciate someone's accomplishment in Krishna consciousness, just by our appreciation, we may actually get more benefits than the person who's done it. Because Krishna is so pleased when we appreciate what's good in bhakti. So everyone was absolutely joyful. There's no such thing as a celebration like this in the material world, where everyone's hearts are completely, totally united with joy because this little baby boy is born to Nanda and Yashoda. And they didn't even know he's God, but they loved him more than they loved God. Does that make sense? As we make spiritual advancement, we realize it's the only thing that makes sense. Everything else really doesn't make any sense. They were dancing. They were laughing. There was Brahmins giving blessings and chanting mantras, and there was bands playing beautiful ragas of spiritual songs. Everything was decorated so nicely. Hundreds and thousands of cows. Every cow was decorated so beautifully. They put gold on their hooves and gold on their horns, and they put beautiful silk over their backs, and the bulls also. And the cows were in ecstasy, and the bulls were in ecstasy, and the peacocks were dancing, and the birds were singing, and the bees were humming. Everyone was happy. Ananda. And so simple. They were taking care of cows, so they had some dahi and some ghee and milk, and they were mixing them with different colors, and they were throwing it on each other as offerings of love. It wasn't a battle. It was an offering of love. And it was just so wonderful. One time during Nandotsav in Radha Gopinath's temple, some Brijbasis came from Barsana. And they brought all kinds of, yogurt with turmeric and all of that. And they started throwing it on everybody. And they were really happy. But it took us weeks to clean the walls and But Nandotsav is the festival of all festivals. And actually, when we really have faith in Krishna, that festival of all festivals, the most blissful, glorious day in the whole creation, celebrated by the Brijvasis. We have a chance to celebrate it too. And actually it was on that day of Nandotsav that Srimati Radharani and her beloved Sri Gopinath sent His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada to take birth within this world on Nandotsav of 1896. He came to the world especially to bring that community of joy. Of praying. After this wonderful festival, Nanda Maharaj had to go to Mathura to pay tax to Kamsa. See, devotional service has many different flavors. He had his responsibilities. So the senior Gopas, along with Nanda Maharaj, had to go to Mathura to give taxes to Kamsa, who was so cruel and so evil. There was a great king named Devamidha, and he had a Kshatriya wife and a Vaishya wife. And from the Kshatriya wife, Surasena was born. And from the Vaishya wife, Parjanya. And Surasena became one of the great kings of Mathura. And Parjanya, he was so gracious, so charitable, so gentle and respectful and loving. Everyone loved him. And he loved to farm and take care of cows. So they gave him Gokul Mahavan. And he had 5 sons: Upananda, Abhinanda, Nanda, Sanandana, and Nandan. And the middle child was Nanda Maharaj. Surasena gave birth, and among his children was Vasudeva. So Vasudeva and Nanda Maharaj were related, and they were best of friends. And here Nanda Maharaj has to go to pay taxes to Kamsa, who has put his own cousin, brother, and dear friend Vasudeva in prison with his wife Devaki for years, and slaughtered 6 of their children. While he was in Mathura, he met with Vasudeva. And Vasudeva was asking, "How is your child?" He didn't tell him that I actually brought your child. It's actually my child. But he was so concerned for that child. And he told Nanda Maharaj, "I think you better go back to Vrindavan, to Gokul very soon." And meanwhile, Kamsa did a bad association. He called upon Putana. She was a mystic yogi. But after she got her powers, she became so corrupt and evil. She could change her form to any form she wished. She could fly in the sky by sitting on a branch of a tree. And her lust in life was the flesh and blood of newborn babies. Kamsa ordered Putana because Yogamaya, when she appeared in the air before Kamsa, when he was about to kill her, she said, "You are a fool, Kamsa. The son who was meant to kill you is already born somewhere else." So Kamsa ordered every child born in that timeline must be massacred. And Putana was very enthusiastic. Tens and thousands of children. She would just grab them and kill them and eat them. Really evil. Can you imagine someone like that today? And she came while Nanda Maharaj and the leading cowherd men were away, she entered Mahavan. But she disguised herself. Jiva Goswami explains she was the most beautiful woman in the world. Her original form was monstrous. And when she came into Vrindavan, her beautiful eyes were glancing at people, and everyone felt so blessed. And the Brijabasis, they're simple people. They were thinking, is this the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi? Is this Sachi, the wife of Indra? Is this Parvati, the wife of Shiva? Who is this beautiful woman who has such qualities? Is she coming to bless our newborn baby Gopal? And she walked right into the room. And there Yashoda and Rohini and the other elderly gopis were assembled. And they were so mesmerized by this guest. She walked right up to little Krishna, who was just born. He was only a few days old. So tiny, so soft, so completely, apparently dependent on the compassion of others. But Krishna within her heart gave her a little message. When she looked at this little baby, she was thinking, he could destroy the whole universe. And Krishna looked at her and closed his eyes. Because she was going to come as a mother. And she pretended to have such motherly affection. She literally lifted up the infant baby and put him on her lap. And Yashoda and Rohini was thinking, oh, Krishna's being blessed. What they didn't know is the most terrible, powerful, fast-acting poison, a mystical poison, was smeared on her breast. And she took little Krishna. It's described that she was like a deadly sword in a very ornamented case. She looked like an elegant jeweled necklace, but she was actually the most venomous serpent. And she pushed her breast in little baby Krishna's mouth. And Krishna's lips were so soft and so small and so reddish. And he just started to suck. And as he sucked her milk, she actually had some motherly affection for Krishna because milk came out. He sucked the milk. He sucked all the poison. He sucked all of her anarthas, all of her sins, all of her cruelty, all of her lust and anger and envy and arrogance and greed and illusion. He sucked it all out of her. And then he started to suck her very prana, her very life. And this was becoming really painful. So she tried to rip Krishna away from her. But little Krishna, with his tiny little lotus hands, his fingers. Have you seen the fingers of a newborn child? They look like if you just breathe on them, they'll break. That's what Krishna's fingers looked like. But he started to squeeze. And it caused her such immense pain. She actually resumed her original form, which was gigantic. And she was screaming. It was a deafening roar. Child, leave me, leave me. And with all of her mighty, mystical power, she was trying to take Krishna away. But Krishna just kept sucking and squeezing. And by Krishna's own will, even though he was on her, he dragged her to run into a forest. And it was very strategically planned. He went to Kamsa's favorite fruit orchard. And as she was screaming, he sucked all her life out of her, and she fell to the ground. She was by that time, by her mystic potencies, trying to get Krishna off. She expanded to 12 miles in size. Now, recently I was in California and I met this person, and he was 7 feet tall. He was a basketball player. And I think I'm 5'6". And when a 5'6" person looks at a 7-foot person, he really looked gigantic. Well, Putana was 12 miles in height. And he fell down and completely destroyed all Kamsa's fruit trees. Krishna can serve so many purposes simultaneously. And meanwhile, Yashoda Mai and Rohini and all of the other gopis and the gopas who were assembled, when they saw this gigantic witch screaming with little tiny baby Krishna on her, they were in absolute fear and anxiety. But this type of fear and anxiety is the highest level of peace and fearlessness. Because they were fearful for Krishna. They were not fearful for themselves. When we fear for the deity, we become fearless. When we fear for the Vaishnavas, we become fearless. Higher than being fearless is to fear for Krishna. Because in the sense that we're discussing now, that fear is based on pure love. And Yashoda Mai was in such grief, and Rohini, they were thinking, why did we let that lady pick up Krishna? Krishna's more dear to us than our own life. And yet, she came in and she looked so nice, and we didn't even have any suspicion. Where is our love for Krishna? We let this stranger pick him up, and now she's taking... And they didn't know what happened when she went running out. They were grief-stricken. And the gopas and the gopis went running around to see what happened to Krishna. And Krishna understood exactly what was in their hearts. And he was playing very blissfully and smiling. Playing. He didn't even know how to crawl yet. But he situated himself right on a prominent part of his body, and he was just smiling. And they looked way up, and they had to climb on Putana and pick up Krishna. and run back and bring him to Yashoda Mai. And she was so afraid. What happened to him? But then he drank her milk, and she understood he was safe. Our beloved Lord Narayan protected him. That was her mood. And her and the other gopis began to perform so many different types of pujas to protect Krishna from further dangers. They bathed him with cow urine. They whisked him with cow tails. They had Brahmins chanting special protective stotrams and mantras and slokas. They had Brahmins doing pujas. And they prayed. From their heart of hearts they prayed. And when Nanda Maharaj and his friends were returning from Mathura, they saw this gigantic form laying in the forest. And what is this? And the gopis told them exactly what happened. So she was taking so much space that they chopped her body up and burned it. And the smoke that came was the most intoxicatingly attractive incense. It was so sweet. Because Krishna touched her. And that Putana, because she approached Krishna with motherly affection, as a mother, even though it was mixed up with so much other stuff, those few seconds of pain took away all the other stuff, and all that was left was her motherly love, and Krishna accepted it. And she died remembering Krishna at that moment. And her soul attained the spiritual world for the most loving service as a mother for Krishna for all eternity. Now, I'm not really prepared for this yatra. So what I'm going to do, at least for a while, is when I tell a story of Krishna, share a memory from Lord Chaitanya's pastimes along with it. Do I have your permission? Because we're celebrating Lord Chaitanya coming to Vrindavan 500 years ago. Brajendra Nandana Jai Sachi Shuta Hoilo She Balarama Hoilo Nitai. I told that story of Narottam Das Thakur just to prepare us for this verse that he wrote. Everyone let us sing. Brajendra Nandana Jai Sachi Shuta Hoilo Se Balaram Hoilo Nitai. That the son of Nanda Maharaj, Sri Gopal Krishna, appears as the son of Sachi, Nimai. Nimai is the name of Lord Chaitanya when he's a child, because he was born under a neem tree. And Balaram appeared as Lord Nityananda. The pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and at this time we're focusing on his childhood pastimes, are non-different than the pastimes of Krishna in Gokul. Non-different in the sense that the same identical exchanges of rati and ras, love and loving reciprocation, were shared. When Putana manifested her form and ran out into the forest, what was the anguish of Krishna's parents and all of his relatives? But you see that anguish, they were totally absorbed in Krishna. Sometimes, even in our lives, in this world, difficulties could really get us absorbed in Krishna. How many of you have tried to chant attentive japa in an airplane going across an ocean? It's not that easy. But when suddenly, emergency landing, you're all very likely going to die within minutes. That's what they're saying. If any of you have been in an experience like that, I have, you're not falling asleep. Really attentive japa. Absolutely attentive japa. Really attentive. And you're really humble. If you want to be more humble than a blade of grass, then be on that airplane. Because there's nothing you can do to save yourself. Even if you're a billionaire. Even if you know 10 million slokas. Even if you're a GBC. There's nothing you can do. It's an emergency landing. And they're telling you you have to get down and your head has to go between your legs. And then you hear all the luggage going. And then you're going toward the airport and you're seeing all these about 25 ambulances and fire trucks waiting for you. And everything's shaking. And all of a sudden you hit the ground. And you bounce up about 200 feet. And then you hit the ground again and bounce up. And this is a 747 jet. And there's nothing you can do except chant. And somehow or other, when the plane lands nicely, you realize that was the most attentive japa I've ever done in an airplane. Now, most of us never want that to happen again. But we're really happy it happened. So when there's fear and anxiety, it really absorbs us. And when there's love for Krishna, samsiddhir haritoshanam, then hundreds of billions of trillions, infinitely more anxiety than we could have for anything that could possibly happen to us is for something to happen to Krishna. The gopis, they suffer miserably when they think that when Krishna's walking barefoot in the pasture grounds of Vrindavan, he sometimes steps on a pebble because his feet are so soft. And if you just touch his feet, they change colors. That's how soft they are. And yet he's going barefoot in the forest. They're willing to enter the flames of hell for billions of years if it will relieve Krishna from the pain that may come by stepping on a pebble. That's their love. It only can make sense for someone who loves. So, when Lord Chaitanya was just a little baby, he was crawling. It's described in great detail in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. Just in front of the house of Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi, Lord Chaitanya saw a gigantic serpent coiled up. Now he's just a little baby, and he's just learning to crawl. And he crawls right up to that serpent and lays down on top of his coils. And the family sees this. And as far as they could see, this is a poison snake, a huge snake. And he has gigantic fangs or teeth. And his body could just squeeze that child to death, and he could eat that child within a second. So the whole family's in the same anxiety as when Krishna was taken away by Putana. They're beside themselves in grief, but they're feeling totally helpless. Because if they approach the snake might get angry and bite Krishna. Lord Nimai, or even eat Nimai. And Nimai's smiling, and he's moving around and bouncing on the snake's coils. Don't just hear this, but hear it. Hear it means feel it. What is Sachimata, the mother, thinking? She would be willing to be eaten by that snake in a second if it would save Nimai. But if they even come one step close to it, the snake might get angry and bite him. So they're feeling totally helpless. They're weeping. They're crying. They're fainting. They're praying. And they're loudly chanting the holy names. Totally helplessly crying out the holy names. Because their prananath, the Lord of their very life, is in such danger. And he's helpless. And this